So, oh, you can barely see me. Well, that's fine, whatever, you don't need to see me. Today, Jeff and I are going on a very special adventure, I will call it. I'm sensing a theme in my videos. I don't really like holidays, but I like to talk about them, I guess. I don't know what it is. Today, to commemorate and celebrate Valentine's Day, one of the dumbest holidays in my opinion. Sorry if you like it, but I think it's stupid. But to commemorate it my way, I'm taking Jeff on a very romantic, scenic tour that maybe you can take your loved one on as well. Where are we headed? Well, we're going outside. I know, gasp, why? Why would you go out? We are going out, we are going through the city of Chicago, and I'm gonna show you some of the awesome spots related to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Let's go get Jeff ready. And by the way, he has no idea where we're going.
You ready to go in the city for the Valentine's Day stuff?
I didn't want it to be a surprise anyway. Let's go! Yoink! So, on February 14th, 1929, between 10 and 10:30 a.m., 7 men enter the S.M.C. Cartage Garage in Lincoln Park. This is at 2122 North Clark Street. We're on our way there now. These men, they're waiting for two things. First, they're waiting for a shipment of bootleg whiskey. Second, they're waiting for their leader, George Bugs Moran. He's the head of the North Side Gang. We'll talk about him a little bit later in more detail. Moran is running late. The door to the garage opens, and what they see is not Moran's lovely chubby little face, but they actually see two police officers that enter the garage. So the officers enter the garage and they tell the men to put their hands up, face the wall, and no talking back. No, I don't know exactly what happened. Nobody really does. The men think that this is just gonna be a routine bootlegging bust. They're like, oh, fuck, whatever. Let's just do this and get this over with. A lot of corruption in the mob and police department, but that is something for a topic for another day. They're facing the wall when all of a sudden in this tiny garage, Thompson submachine gun fire erupts. So the men don't have any time to react to this. They're shot in the back. Their bodies are just riddled with bullets. When the smoke clears, 70 bullet casings are found later on by police. And this event would later be known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, but in its immediacy, newspapers were calling it the North Side Massacre because it's on the north side of Chicago. Since it happened, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre has attracted a lot of speculation. We're going on Lower Wacker right now, whee! But since it happened, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre has attracted a lot of different speculation, a lot of different theories as to what has happened because of all of the corruption, not just with the gangs and mobsters and things like that, but also with the Chicago Police Department and just like literally everything that was going on at the time, and the media as well. It's not really known what the factual sort of events are, but we're going to try to get to the bottom of this today, or at least discuss what may have actually happened at that time. What we do know, though, is that of the 64 other known, keyword known, I'm working here! What we do know of the 64 known mob-related deaths is that this was one of the bloodiest of that year, if not in entire mob history. And it was so bloody and so gruesome and so seemingly unnecessary, which is why I think it's lived on in infamy. It's just very like, whoa, what? In our tour today, we're gonna be looking at 5 spots that are related to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We're kind of gonna be picking up in the middle of this whole feud between the Chicago outfit, which was Johnny Torrio and Al Capone's South Side Gang, and then also the O'Banion, Bugs Moran, North Side Gang. There's a lot of history to it. Like I said, we're gonna be leaving out some key facts and figures, but that's just how this tour is gonna go, so let's go. Okay, wow, windy. They don't call it the Windy Cindy for nothing. Just kidding, that's a myth. Right now we're actually gonna head to the first spot of our tour, which is the catalyst for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which, like I said, we are going straight into the middle of an ongoing story and an ongoing feud, but this is going to be the start of our story and for our intents and purposes, so let's go. Chicago has changed a little bit since 1929, or the 1920s, just a bit. The area where we're going, the original building has since been demolished, of course, because that's just how time works. We can't save all historical buildings, but we can at least try to save most of them. Wow, it's really cold right now. Okay, so we're here right now at our first stop. This is where Schofield's flower shop used to be. Schofield's was in operation from 1896 to 1976, so almost 100 years. Mr. William Big Bill Schofield, which was his nickname, Big Bill, kind of like that. I want to be called Big Amara. William Schofield owned this flower shop. In 1921, the head of the Northside gang, Dean O'Banion, he approached Mr. Schofield with, how you could say, an offer he can't refuse. It was $10,000 in cash and a .38 caliber pistol, so kind of can't refuse that offer, but it was an offer to go into business together. Dean O'Banion, he needed a front for his bootlegging business that he had, so he actually went here to the Holy Name Cathedral, which is how he first saw Mr. Schofield's floral shop, which was right across the street. So it was very convenient. The Northside gang actually had their offices on top of the flower shop, and Dean O'Banion was a huge fan of making floral arrangements, funny enough, so that's why he picked Schofield's flower shop as well. So the two became partners. Schofield sort of against his will, but what are you gonna do? And because of O'Banion's involvement with the flower shop, it became the floral shop, an institution for all mob-related floral needs. So like marriages, anniversaries, funerals, lots of them. So on November 10th, 1924, Dean O'Banion entered the shop just as he would on any other morning. He greeted everybody very jovially, very happy, just saying, hi, hello, how's it going? He grabbed an armful of chrysanthemum flowers to clip them, to keep them fresh, and then he headed to the back room. Around like 11 or so in the morning, he received a call from Mr. Schofield, and he just said, hey, can you stay at the shop until 1 o'clock? I'm here at Mount Carmel Cemetery, which is where Al Capone is buried now. And he was like, I'm putting wreaths on things, blah, 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 for Armistice Day, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Can you just stay at the shop until 1? And Dean was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't give a fuck. I don't know if he said exactly that, but whatever. So Dean stayed at the shop. Shortly after this phone call, which is a little suspicious in my mind, I'm putting things together, so it's just my hearsay, but shortly after the phone call, 3 men enter the floral shop. They're described in the press as 1 tall one and then 2 that look like they could be twins or possibly brothers, which that's an important fact that we'll talk about in a minute. So they enter the shop, O'Banion goes up, shakes hands with them, and he's like, hey, how's it going? Later reports would suggest that he didn't do that with just anybody, so he knew these men, he knew who they were, he was very friendly with them, possibly. He says, are you Merlot's men? Meaning, are you here for Michel Merlot? Which we'll talk about that in a second. They say yes. The tall guy grabs O'Banion's hand, they shake it, and then the 2 other guys shoot O'Banion. So he has 6 shots in his body, 2 in his head, I believe, 1 in his throat, and then 3 just in his chest cavity in various different places. The 3 guys get away, yada, yada, yada. So it's believed that O'Banion was offed by the Johnny Torrio and Al Capone gang, also known as the Chicago Outfit, specifically because of the Jenna brothers. Now, the Jenna brothers were 6 men that were the brothers, and they were related and worked in cahoots with the Chicago Outfit. So what happened was the Jenna brothers actually took over part of O'Banion's turf, and they were selling bootleg liquor where they weren't supposed to. So O'Banion was like, what the fuck, what are you doing? He went to Johnny Torrio and Al Capone and was like, hey, can you do something about these brothers? And Torrio was basically like, no, sorry, tough shit. O'Banion, rightfully, was pretty upset about this because they're ruining his business. So then O'Banion took matters into his own hands, and he hijacked the Jenna brothers liquor, the bootleg liquor, that a shipment that they were supposed to get. The Jennas, also rightfully so, were not happy about this, which, like I said, things just keep going back and forth in mob history, so that's why we're kind of just starting in the middle. Otherwise, this would be like this would be an hours-long video. The brothers, rightfully so, not super happy about this either, so they went back to Johnny Torrio and Al Capone and were like, hey, what the fuck is this ass clown doing? Like, can you stop him? Torrio was he tried to kind of keep out of things a little bit, but they did talk to Michel Merlot, who was the head of the Union Siciliana. He vetoed against O'Banion's killing. He was like, absolutely not, you can't do this. Well, Michel Merlot, like I mentioned earlier, when O'Banion was like, are you Merlot's men? Michel Merlot died November 8th, 1924, 2 days before O'Banion's murder. So guess what? After Michel Merlot died, he just died of cancer. It wasn't anything like nefarious, or could have been, I don't know. But since he died, O'Banion was essentially fair game. So yeah, he was taken out almost instantly afterward, which is why it seems like it was a Torrio Capone kind of thing. O'Banion's death actually led to a 5-year war between the Chicago Outfit and the Northside gang. It was absolutely bloody, absolutely gruesome. Tons of people died throughout this. Funny enough, Johnny Torrio, well, not funny enough, but Johnny Torrio actually, there was a hit out on him in front of his home shortly after O'Banion's death. He survived the hit, but he fled Chicago. He was absolutely fucking terrified. So he went back to Italy. He left Capone in charge of the Chicago Outfit, which is when things got really dicey. 3 of the 6 Jenna brothers were killed throughout 1925 in various different ways, but all shot. The other 3 that were remaining just fled. They left Chicago. Nobody knows exactly where they went. And like I said, that's just a very brief Cliff's Notes of what exactly happened here. On to our next spot. I'm going to take you to the morning of February 14th, 1929. So let's go. It's the morning of February 14th, 1929. It's about 10 or so in the morning. We're here right now at what used to be the Parkway Hotel. It was one of the most beautiful and luxurious hotels. And sorry, my lips are actually going numb as I'm talking, so sorry if I'm stumble through my words. But this is the Parkway Hotel. It's where Bugs Moran lived at the time of the massacre. This hotel was originally located at the corner of Lincoln Park West and Garfield Avenue. It changed to Dickens Avenue in 1940, but that's a story for another day. On the morning of February 14th, Bugs Moran left his hotel a little bit late. There are a bunch of different reports as to why he actually left so late. It's said that he was ill, or he had another appointment, or he just slept in. He left his hotel and he was heading straight for the S.M.C garage. So let's go. So as Bugs Moran rounded the corner, he held his jacket close because it was a cold day just like it is today. He saw right across policemen entering the building. So he hightailed it out of there, he ran to the local coffee shop, and he just hid there. That takes us to our next spot, the actual location of the massacre. Ooh, and that's where we're gonna get macarons. Okay, so we're here. This is the location of the actual St. Valentine's Day massacre. On the morning of February 14th, like I said, 7 men of the Moran gang were in the garage. They were waiting for Bugs Moran. He was on his way, but he saw the cops enter the building. There are a bunch of different accounts of what actually happened, and nobody exactly knows what happened. I'm just gonna give you a super Cliff Notes version because I'm freezing my ass off. So the exact spot is this empty lot right here, which we'll talk about why it's empty in just a couple minutes or later on in this video, whatever, I'm too cold. As I mentioned before, the 7 guys chilling in there waiting. I've said that a lot, but just wanna make that clear. And then 2 police officers entered the area. The men in the Moran gang thought that they were just a regular bootlegging bust, but it turns out it wasn't. 2 more guys who were just dressed in plain regular clothes entered the establishment. They had 2 Thompson submachine guns. They fired on the men when they were up against the wall. They looked like Swiss cheese by the end of it. There are a lot of photos online that you can find. I don't recommend it. It's pretty gross and graphic, but whatever floats your boat. I'm not gonna show it in this video because that's disrespectful in my opinion. It was very loud, so people actually across the street in the apartments, which we'll talk about that again in a minute, they heard what was going on. They called the authorities. People out on the sidewalk could hear what was going on. It's pretty loud. And then people who witnessed what happened, or at least saw the aftermath of it, witnessed 4 men exit the garage quickly, 2 dressed like police officers, 2 plainclothes, and then they got away in a 1926 Peerless and then a 1927 Cadillac Grand Touring car, which was the car that was used by Chicago police at the time. So while all 7 men were like basically butchered beyond belief, 1 was still alive, and that was Frank Gusenberg. Authorities were trying to question him as he was dying, and he was like, just get me to the fucking hospital. So that is where we're headed next. So immediately after the massacre, Frank Gusenberg was the sole survivor. He was rushed here to the Alexian Brothers Hospital, which was on this location. It was one of these 4 corners here at Belden and Racine. The police met him here at the hospital, and they were asking, you know, like, obviously, like, who shot you, blah, blah, blah. There's the whole gangster code of silence. And allegedly, he said, no one shot me, which whether he actually said that or not is still a subject for debate among historians. Ultimately, what happened was no information was gleaned, whether or not that's actually factual or if the Chicago police were hiding something. I don't know, I have no idea. So the Alexian Brothers Hospital was on one of these 4 corners. The hospital ended up, throughout its span that it was here in the city, I think now it's in Elmwood Park or somewhere like that. It traveled all throughout the city, but now this is the property of DePaul University, which makes sense because it was a Catholic hospital, so Catholic school. The sergeant of the Chicago police at the time. He famously questioned Frank, asking, you know, like, were these men in police uniform? And he answered yes, because the passersby or the witnesses who saw it happen said that there were police officers, and then he died 3 hours later. So in his autopsy, they showed that he was shot 14 times. 7 of the bullets went straight through his body, and then 7 were actually just still in there. So in the aftermath, Frank Gusenberg sent to the hospital, he dies. What happened to the people that were the shooters? Where did they go? What happened with them? Well, we'll find out in our final stop right now. The actual destination is down here, and we're supposed to turn left, but this is a sheet of ice, so this is as close as we're gonna get. This is our 5th and final stop. Okay. Oh boy. This is what they call Chicago ice skate. Oh man, it's not too slippery, I guess. This area, it is residential, so I'm gonna be talking a little bit quieter, but down this way on the left, this is where the 1927 Cadillac touring car that I mentioned before was found. It was found because the person who was dismantling it used an acetylene torch or something like that, and they didn't think, oh, there's gas in the tank, so there was a small fire that broke out from that. So the authorities were called, they arrived, and smart enough, I wouldn't have even thought about this, but they checked all the hospitals to see if anybody recently entered or registered with burn marks or anything like that. Nobody did, so shit out of luck, but that I thought was pretty smart. So let me backtrack a little bit. So the 1926 Peerless that I also mentioned earlier, that was found in Maywood, which is a suburb just outside of Chicago, and it was found in a home owned by Claude Maddox. Claude Maddox was affiliated with the Chicago outfit, the Torrio and Capone gang. So in addition to that, this garage where the 1927 Cadillac was being dismantled, guess who was in the garage dismantling it? Claude Maddox. He owned the Circus Cafe, which was like a gangster haunt, specifically for the Chicago outfit. That's pretty damning evidence, if you ask me, that it was the Chicago outfit that completed the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So now that we've seen some of the sites directly affiliated with the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, we're gonna go back to the warmth to kind of wrap everything up a little bit and just discuss some key points that I didn't talk about because I'm freezing my ass off and my lips are still numb. Let's go home. It's really icy. I made it! Alrighty, so we are back home. It is very nice and warm inside. I hate it outside. So I just wanted to wrap up the video really quickly and just discuss a couple key points, including, like I mentioned before, where did the garage go, what happened to the wall and everything like that. And also, very importantly, who did the shooting? So first we're gonna talk about who did the shooting. There are a bunch of different theories that have been floated around like throughout the years since the massacre happened. Most of them point to the Johnny Torrio Al Capone gang, the Chicago outfit, but also one of them was really intriguing to me, so I just have to share it with you. One theory actually suggests that it was the Chicago Police Department that were working in cahoots with Al Capone and Johnny Torrio's gang. Apparently, at some point, Moran's gang, some people from that gang, they actually murdered a police officer's son, so this was seen to be retaliation by them. I don't know if that's factual or not. I'm just letting you know that that is a theory that exists. I just found it very interesting. Like I mentioned, most of the theories that are around involve the Chicago outfit themselves, that it was Al Capone who did it. And I'm just going off the evidence that exists. There's one such piece that's pretty damning, if I may say so myself, but you always have to approach things a little bit skeptically just because, you know, people will try to get you to see things from their perspective, so I'm just bringing to you what I am finding. I just want to read this to you really quickly. Allegedly, Bugs Moran said, and I quote, this is from a newspaper article, he said, quote, "It was the Capone mob that did it. There's only one gang in the world that kills like that, and only one that would want to." So that was published in a newspaper in the early to mid 1930s. Pretty damning, I would say. Granted, he could just be covering for something else or whatever could be happening, so just approach that with an open mind. And as I mentioned before throughout the video, there were 3 like groups of people that you really could not trust at that time historically that were involved in this. So it was the gangsters, code of silence, and just like saying things to persuade people to believe them. You had the newspapers who were trying to be more sensationalist than actually like providing facts and things like that. And third, the Chicago Police Department. Police departments historically do have some not good things that have happened, to put it very mildly. So you have all three of these things together. So I think that's what makes it so difficult to be able to figure out what the hell actually happened on that day. It was, however, reported on February 23rd, 1929 in an issue of the New York Times that one of Capone's men placed a call to Al Capone, who was in Miami at the time of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. He placed a call into Capone 30 minutes before the massacre from the Congress Plaza Hotel, which if you look at a map, it's about 20 minutes drive up to where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened. So in the 1920s, maybe it would have been about 30 or so minutes. So that's a little suspicious as well. Also, another piece of evidence that points to the Capone gang is that in 1935, Byron Bolton was actually, he was identified as one of the people that rented the apartment across the street from the S.M.C. Cartage Company Garage. Byron Bolton was part of Egan's Rats, which was a gang that was affiliated with the Chicago outfit with Al Capone. Byron, allegedly, he confessed that it was him that was involved with it, as well as two different Freds, Fred Burke and Fred Goetz. Goetz, I think is how you pronounce his last name, or Gertz maybe, I don't know. But they were the ones that were dressed up as police officers, apparently. Byron was found out, I should back up a little bit, Byron was found out and he confessed because allegedly a piece of mail was found in the apartment across the street from the S.M.C. Cartage Garage that had his name on it, which like, duh, clear out your evidence, you ding dong. So yeah, so then he confessed, allegedly, and then just said that it was the two Freds who were dressed as police officers and he was across the street as kind of like the watch persons. By the time that Byron confessed to this, Fred Burke was already in penitentiary serving a life sentence for something else. And allegedly, Capone's bodyguard, Philip D'Andrea, he visited Burke in the penitentiary, just had a very quick exchange with him and then left. So that's also a little suspicious, but I don't know. Whether or not Capone was actually involved with this or not, public opinion of him did sway very harshly after the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, because a lot of people believe that he was involved with this. Prior to that, he was kind of seen as like a Robin Hood sort of figure, where it was like, yeah, steal from the rich to feed the poor, and he had soup kitchens during the Great Depression and everything, but he was seen in a more favorable light beforehand. But then after all this, people were like, wow, that was really aggressive, and like they weren't too happy about that, which rightly so. I would be terrified out of my mind. And in 1930, he was even declared public enemy #1, so congratulations. Okay, so now let's talk about what happened to the garage and the wall. So for that, I'm gonna take us back to Pastamara. Pastamara, what happened? Almost instantly, after the massacre, this spot became an obscene tourist attraction, which, I mean, obviously because something horrific happened, people are very morbid and macabre and are just curious about things. A bunch of different businesses tried to succeed here. It was nearly impossible because the only people that really wanted to come were because of the macabre history. So in 1967, I forget the exact name of it, but the purchased this building and tore it down. Before though, the actual wall that was here, owners of the buildings throughout the years, they covered it up and put a partition and everything because they didn't really want to have that piece of history like visible to the eye. It's pretty fucked up. What happened though, before the building was demolished, was a businessman by the name of, a Canadian businessman by the name of George Patey. Sorry, my lips are like numb right now. He purchased the wall and he put it in his 1920s themed restaurant, and he actually had plexiglass over it and put it in a urinal so then men could like piss and aim on the wall. Fucked up, but whatever, I'm not gonna judge you, I guess. Actually, I will, that's really fucked up. So he bought the wall, his business failed, and it changed hands a bunch of different times. And so then eventually part of the wall, except for like 100 bricks of it, I think, are at the Mob Museum. And then 100 bricks are just randomly out in different parts of the world. So yeah, so that's what happened to the structure as well as the wall. Chicago really wanted to forget the history of what happened here, which rightfully so, I don't blame them. So that's why they tore down, I think it was the Chicago Urban Renewal Project, now that I'm thinking about it, and like my brain is defrosting a little bit. So yeah, that's what happened here, so yeah. Thank you very much for that fucked up little bit of history, Pastamara. Oh, and what is next to where the garage used to be? It's funny because there's an antique shop here, and there was an antique shop that was one of the businesses that was in the garage. Or when it was, after it was the garage, after the massacre, there was an antique shop in there, and the people that owned it actually had a really tough time running their shop because so many people wanted to come in and be like, where's the wall? Let me see the wall. Where's the wall? And it's like, we're just trying to run a fucking business here. Jesus. So anyway, I just found that funny. I just want to end this on one final note. While the St. Valentine's Day Massacre was absolutely horrific and bloody and gory and just like yucky, there was one good thing that came out of it, which was legislation. And because of how just like out of hand and crazy gangster activity was in the 1920s, not only in Chicago, but just like across the country, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt actually had a little bit to say about this. Also because people were just in a total panic. I think it was like 2 or 3 days after the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, there was actually an article that was published in the newspaper called, "Is the City Helpless?" In addition to the massacre, people are just being shot like in the Loop district, which if you know anything about Chicago, that's like the hub, like the central hub of the city where people, like all the businesses are, or like predominantly like huge businesses are and things like that. And that's like the shopping district where tourists go. Having people just get shot like on the corner of the street, it was very jarring with like good reason. So in order to quell this public panic, it took a little bit, but on June 26, 1924, Franklin Delano Roosevelt passed the National Firearms Act. And this act was essentially just to put limitations on selling and owning firearms. So it didn't outlaw weapons or anything because we still have guns out and about, but it did now require registration and taxes be paid on firearms, on certain types of firearms, I should say. So this, in addition to Al Capone being arrested in 1931, kind of helped settle down things a little bit. Also the Great Depression, so it wasn't like the rip-roaring 1920s that we all know and love. I hope you had a great time on our tour today. I hope you learned some new fun things. You can head on over to my blog post all about this and like read a little bit more. I have some more in-depth facts and figures and things that I discuss in the blog post versus in this video, so linked is down in the description below. Go check it out. And if you like this video, please like it. That helps me go up in the ratings on YouTube, and then other people can see this, and it just helps me. So I would very much appreciate that. I will send you a virtual hug. Virtual hug! Ooh. Or if you don't like the hug, you can just skip past that and pretend I never did that. So anyway, like I said, that'll do it for me today. If you have any other places that you'd be curious for me to go to, please let me know. I'm working on a video right now about blues and jazz musicians in Chicago, so very excited about that video. I love blues and jazz, so I can't wait to make that. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer by the time I shoot that, so we'll find out. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe as well, and then yeah, you will be alerted to that video. Okay, thanks so much for coming with, and I hope you had a great time, and happy Valentine's Day if you like it. If not, then fuck it. Okay, bye! Job-related deaths in 1929? Oh god, I just got blinded by the light! It's me. Excuse me. Hi.